in the beginning, hated it so much. I, like, did not sign up for that. I also always thought, like, I didn't know that he was gonna end up playing basketball. He said he wanted to be a high school basketball coach. Like, I thought
After years of rumors, Ayesha Curry's alleged behavior may have finally pushed the NBA's golden marriage to the brink. The internet erupted after footage leaked from a Drake concert last month, not of the rapper, but of Aisha herself, moving through the VIP section alone without her husband and caught on camera in what some are calling questionable proximity to an unnamed man. It was the kind of moment that takes whispers of infidelity from tabloid sidebars to full-blown crisis. The video hit social media with wildfire timing just as preseason kicked off for the Golden State Warriors. And just like that, the image of the Curry marriage began to buckle under pressure that's apparently been building for years.
a time when this, like, social media thing was just ramping up. And so people were going buck wild. And just spewing opinions on things that didn't warrant opinions. And so
Because when we go back, the signs were there. Earlier this year, Aisha sat down for a high-profile interview on the Call Her Daddy podcast, where she didn't just open up, she detonated. "I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married," she said, her tone flat, her words sharp. That's not what the audience expected from someone who spent over a decade building a brand around family values and wholesome domestic life. Then came the deeper admission, "I'm always in therapy." That quote didn't just echo through headlines, it echoed through the Curry household, and insiders say it wasn't the first time Steph had heard something like it. Fans didn't have to dig far to connect the dots. Back in 2019, Aisha made headlines for confessing on Red Table Talk that she felt invisible to men, not in a casual way, but in a way that sounded like yearning. "I have zero male attention," she said then, "and it makes me feel like something's wrong with me." It was the kind of comment that can't be unsaid, especially when your husband is a league MVP and a face of American loyalty. Around the same time, she posted a revealing bikini photo, not in itself a scandal, except that she had famously criticized other women for similar posts just a few years earlier, saying she preferred to keep the good stuff covered. That hypocrisy didn't go unnoticed, and fans began seeing a pattern, a shift from modest homemaker to public provocateur, just as her husband's stardom hit its peak.
in my 30s, I've gotten pretty good at advocating for myself, or like just living in that vulnerability of what that means. So like, even if it's not well received, at least I'm satisfied and I know that I've spoken up for myself, because I have in the past.
And while one podcast or one post might be shrugged off as personal growth, this wasn't a one-off. This was a slow public unraveling, documented and dissected in real time. By the time the Drake concert clip went viral, people weren't asking if something was wrong. They were asking how long Steph could keep pretending it wasn't. Sources close to the Warriors have reportedly said he's been distracted during preseason, not outright absent, but different. One former staffer called it off-brand Steph, noting how visibly disengaged he seemed during press shoots and early practices. The timing is hard to ignore. What we're looking at isn't just marriage tension, it's the erosion of a public image built on unity. For over a decade, the Currys have been marketed as America's sports royalty, faith, family, success, but behind the Instagram filters, the dynamic seems more strained than ever. Aisha has repeatedly stepped into the spotlight on her own terms, from food shows to lifestyle brands to controversial interviews, and each time, it's Steph who's left answering for it. We've seen him clap back at critics online, most recently defending her against Mike's comment that Steph doesn't deserve the embarrassment. Steph's reply? Stay in your lane, we are good over here. But if everything was fine, why is the damage control now so public, so sharp?
I didn't. I just knew that I loved him, and I'd never like experienced anything else. I'd never felt any differently than like, this is who I want to spend the rest of my life with. And so we kind of just dove in. And
insiders aren't buying the "we're good" line anymore. Several sources familiar with the situation, including a former PR consultant who once worked with the Curry brand, say that there's a growing expectation behind the scenes. If another video or compromising detail leaks, Steph's inner circle is prepared to pivot. Quietly, cautiously, but seriously. One associate went as far as to say that legal groundwork is in motion, even if nothing's been filed. We can't confirm that directly, but the phrasing has been consistent across sources. Prepared, ready if needed, not caught off guard. For a couple that's built an empire on being untouchable, that's not just smoke, that's a flicker of real fire. It's not just the private conversations, it's the visual clues, and lately fans have noticed something they never expected. Steph Curry, the devoted family man, has started erasing the evidence. Over the last several weeks, followers have clocked a subtle but steady disappearance of joint photos from his social media feeds. Vacation memories, gone. Birthday tributes, missing. Even promotional shots for their cookbook collab, archived. The kind of cleanup we typically see when a split is imminent, not when a marriage is healthy. There's been no formal comment from the Currys, but the algorithm doesn't lie. And when internet sleuths began compiling side-by-side comparisons from his grid just 6 months ago, the contrast was undeniable.
Please recover. And I think it's important also, like sometimes you can feel like you're in your own bubble or like feel isolated or like you're the only person experiencing that thing, but there's always like a resource or there's always a community of people who are experiencing similar things.
Did you have like...
That's when the online speculation exploded. Theories ranged from full-on separation prep to claims that Steph has finally drawn the line after years of playing family spokesperson. One post that went viral claimed he was done shielding her, and while that's pure speculation, the engagement it got says something. This wasn't niche gossip, it was trending across platforms, igniting debates about loyalty, brand protection, and the cost of emotional labor in high-profile marriages. If Steph is selectively deleting snapshots, what else is he about to erase? And that's where things start to twist deeper. Because while the deleted photos raised eyebrows, they also forced fans to go back and re-watch the footage that started it all. Not just the Drake concert angle, but the build-up before it, the awkward interview moments, the birthday speeches that felt strained, the quiet way Aisha started making more solo appearances. One source in entertainment PR, who's worked with NBA spouses, said, when a wife starts showing up to major events without her husband, there's usually a reason, and if it keeps happening, it's a message. We've seen Aisha at brand launches, award shows, even courtside, smiling, glowing, but alone. That's not how this couple used to operate, not in the early days, not when the Curry name was still synonymous with picture-perfect devotion.
For anyone have any hesitations about like, ooh, we're getting married in our early 20s or no?
No, and I say this all the time to our family. I'm like, you guys, like 22. I'm like,
But maybe that's the problem. Maybe the pressure to be perfect was the wedge all along. Aisha's been vocal about how hard it is living in Steph's shadow, not just the fame, but the expectations. On the Call Her Daddy podcast, she admitted that Steph tries to resonate with me, but he just can't. That quote, buried in a conversation about therapy and emotional support, hit differently once the concert footage dropped. It wasn't just an offhand comment, it was a diagnosis, a chasm. The kind of line that, once spoken publicly, can't be walked back. Not easily. Meanwhile, Steph has been navigating a preseason filled with whispers. And the locker room, according to one team source, is more tense than usual. He's locked in on the court, the source said, but there's a different energy around him. Another insider mentioned that even longtime teammates have pulled back from asking personal questions. A sign that whatever's happening behind closed doors is no longer just marital, it's managerial. It's beginning to affect the business. And that's the real tension now. What happens when the most tightly managed brand in sports begins to fray under pressure? When loyalty becomes a liability? We've already seen the cracks in their public image, but insiders suggest the private ones might run deeper. Because if Steph Curry, the face of discipline and devotion, is silently scrubbing his timeline...
It was so innocent and young, and like, I wish I could relive that, or at least watch it from like a bird's eye view. It was so cute. We did Hollywood Boulevard, put our hands in the Maryland hands, and like got chai lattes. We went over to the Grove and like walked.
What happens when a billion-dollar family brand starts to crumble from the inside? For years, Steph and Ayesha Curry sold the world a love story wrapped in scripture and sprinkles. Their cookbooks, their restaurants, their curated Instagram lives, all anchored by the image of unity. But when that image starts to fracture, the fallout doesn't just hit the tabloids, it hits the business. Because this isn't just a couple in crisis, this is an empire under review. Endorsements, lifestyle ventures, even their new bourbon speakeasy in San Francisco, all of it depends on the illusion that Steph and Aisha are rock solid, which is why the timing of their recent public appearance sent a very different kind of message.
He's one of the first people that I met in the States, but just friends. Obviously, we were 14.
Right.
Went to the same church, shared the same friend groups at church. And then when I moved to LA, he Facebooked me.
Did he
Just days after the Drake concert footage leaked, they showed up together at the opening of the 8th Rule, their high-end speakeasy, tucked behind a velvet curtain of curated class. Cameras, flashed. Aisha wore red, Steph smiled. From the outside, it was a celebration. But to those who know how celebrity damage control works, it felt like something else, a performance of unity that insiders say was rehearsed, not real. One source who works closely with luxury brand teams said the couple's publicist had been in overdrive the week before, ensuring that press coverage would focus on the bourbon launch, not the concert clip. The word used internally? Containment. But behind those grins and glasses of expensive whiskey, Steph's inner circle has reportedly been urging him to get serious about protection, not just emotionally, but financially. According to a Bay Area business associate who's worked with the Curry's brand team, the topic of separation isn't just gossip anymore. It's been discussed, quietly, in terms of asset preservation. One former advisor put it bluntly, the man's worth hundreds of millions. If this goes public, it won't just be sad, it'll be expensive. For a family built on loyalty and faith, the idea of prenup clauses and NDA reviews being activated is jarring. But that's the conversation being had, and not just in private.
And so he goes, do you still live in LA? I'm here for a camp. Do you want to hang out? And I'm like freaking out because this guy, he was like the guy at church. Like all the girls loved him.
Meanwhile, Aisha isn't backing down. Instead of retreating from the spotlight, she's doubled down on visibility. More interviews, more solo appearances, more moments that hint at autonomy over apology. In one of her most recent sit-downs, she didn't hold back. I love being a mom, she said, but I love doing other things too. The tone wasn't defensive, it was declarative. And that quote, in the context of everything else, hits differently now. What once sounded like vulnerability now reads as warning, almost like a prelude to independence. Because when someone publicly declares they're always in therapy and figuring out what that looks like for myself, they're not just talking, they're preparing. The irony is, the more she explains her inner struggle, the louder the speculation grows. Aisha has said she feels scrutinized, misunderstood, overwhelmed. But her openness, the therapy confessions, the marital tension, the honesty about resentment and self-worth, keeps fueling the very machine she claims to resent. Every new quote becomes a headline. Every emotional reveal becomes an invitation for new interpretations. Absolutely. The cycle is now self-sustaining and it's moving fast.
Yeah, so I'm just grateful. I'm excited. Hoping I don't get in trouble for the things that I say.
I feel like we're going to have good girl talk.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
so too.
You're not in the hot seat. Like you.
Yeah, I know.
And yet, the biggest shift may not be in what's said publicly, but in how things are playing out privately. Behind closed doors, the power dynamic has reportedly flipped. Friends close to the couple have described Steph as cautious, methodical, and intensely focused on legacy. For him, every decision is filtered through optics. Family first, image second, performance always. But lately, Aisha's moves suggest she's no longer playing by those rules. What we're seeing now, according to insiders, is a quiet rebellion. A wife pushing back against the constraints of a brand she helped build, but no longer wants to uphold. Some insiders say this isn't about infidelity at all. It's about a woman who never wanted this life. Aisha's own words trace the through line. Long before the cameras, before the cookbooks, and well before the family brand took root, she described herself as someone with no plans for marriage or motherhood. She wanted the spotlight, but on her own terms. Acting, food, independence, the original vision was not a matching tattoo of domestic bliss with an NBA poster child. And when that vision got interrupted by whirlwind romance, surprise pregnancies, and instant celebrity by association, something got buried. What we're watching now might not be a breakdown, it might be a recovery.
Genuinely didn't pay attention to that because I grew up in such an arts-driven family that sports outside of like Doug Flutie playing for the Buffalo Bills like it just wasn't a thing in my house.
Aisha has said repeatedly that she's always in therapy, and that detail, once framed as a touching commitment to self-care, now reads like an alarm bell ringing in plain sight. It suggests not just emotional strain, but identity strain, the kind of unresolved conflict that doesn't come from a rocky season or a viral comment, but from years of living in a narrative that doesn't feel like yours. Every apron string, every stage-managed photo shoot, every viral clip of the perfect mom became part of a machine she didn't fully sign up for. And at some point, therapy stops being maintenance. It becomes triage. The question isn't whether Aisha loves her family, it's whether she's ever had space to love herself in the process. Fame gave her a platform, but the price may have been steep. The erasure of her own voice beneath the tidal wave of Steph's legacy. When she posts about ambition or appears solo at media events, it's not rebellion for attention, it's a recalibration. A slow pivot back to who she was before the wedding dress, before the diapers, before being typecast as the supportive wife who just happens to cook. And that quiet reclamation is clashing with a marriage rooted in consistency and brand harmony.
Birthday, he came like I was mid-sentence and he like came flying at my face, and I turned to the side. I'm still nervous at this point. Like it's like butterflies. And he's like, oh. And I just look at him and I'm like, I didn't know that's what we were doing. Like I didn't know you liked me like that. And he was like,
this emotional divergence doesn't play out in headlines. It plays out in distance. Missed birthdays, solo travel, different cities for work. Each moment might seem trivial on its own, but stacked together, they start to outline a new reality. It's not just about Aisha's public choices. It's about the private ones, the quiet shifts in how she moves, who she calls, what she no longer accommodates. The insiders watching this unfold aren't citing drama, they're citing a drift. A long, slow unraveling, not from betrayal, but from misalignment. And that's what makes this story harder to define. If it were just one scandal, it could be patched. If it were a clear betrayal, there'd be closure. But this is the murky, uncomfortable space where two people love each other but want different lives, where success becomes suffocating, where emotional distance isn't loud, it's silent. And in that silence, something more haunting takes shape. The idea that the real betrayal might not be between Steph and Aisha, but between Aisha and the life she gave up. Multiple sources, including 2 former business managers who once consulted on their joint ventures, say Steph's team has begun preparing for multiple scenarios. And yes, that includes separation logistics. The language isn't hypothetical anymore. It's strategic. These aren't people reacting to drama, they're anticipating outcomes. One source even claimed that certain endorsement partners have asked for clarity on the family's status before renewing contracts. That's when speculation starts to sound less like tabloid fluff and more like preemptive cleanup. What's unclear is where the tipping point lies. If the leaked Drake concert was the spark, the silence since might be the signal. Because in the Curry household, the louder the denial, the closer the truth may be. The family photos have slowed, the couple content has thinned out, and those in the know are watching Steph's next move with growing curiosity. Not as a husband, but as a man with a brand to protect. So here's the question we're all asking now. Is the Curry fairy tale finally running out of room to rewrite itself? Or is this just the quiet before a very public reset? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're watching this one unfold in real time. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and remember, in the world of celebrity love stories, the cleanest smiles can hide the messiest truths.